Good evening, everybody. And a mite. So this evening we are with Sarah Jane and Paul, who are going to talk about their journey and faith, and their journey with faith to faith. Some of you might know or not know that on September 6th last year, Paul and Sarah Jane were married here at Christ Church, which was a really wonderful time, and I was very honored to be there at that ceremony. It was fantastic. So tonight also we have a little whiteboard that we're going to be sliding around if you feel inclined to. And at the end, it's just if there's something in particular you want to pray for, or a person, or anything, there's already a few things been jotted down. But if you feel so inclined, please go ahead and use the pen connected to the whiteboard to do so. So thank you for Alex and James doing the sound and recording tonight. So without any further ado, we'll have a quick prayer, and then we'll turn it over to Sarah Jane and Paul. So, Heavenly Father, thank you for this time together. We give you thanks for the food, and we give you thanks for the fellowship. Lord, we thank you for the gift of friendship. We also thank you for the kind weather that we have out this evening. It's quite fair, which we do appreciate. But as we know, we come here whether it's rain, snow, sleet, darkness, or light. So we thank you for your light. We thank you for your loving kindness and your amazing grace. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for coming tonight. I want to talk to you about my faith and the important part it plays in both of our lives. But to get to that bit, I just have to give you some background first. So, I am a food addict living successfully in recovery. She is me, and at my heaviest I weighed 22 stone and had some health issues that sent me to the doctor. I started my first diet age 14 because I just hated my body and wanted to be the same as everyone else. And that set up this really toxic restriction binge eating pattern that really did so much damage to someone that was a bit of a comfort eater with low self-worth, and it turned comfort eating into full-blown food addiction. I would eat in secret, I would eat vast amounts of food, and was very isolated and very ashamed of myself. And every time I reached out for help in the doctors, I was told, you just need to eat less. If only it was that simple. Then the diet industry wouldn't be a multi-billion-pound industry, would it? So I ended up going to the doctors, and I was mid-20s, and she told me, Sarah, you won't make the age of 40 if you carry on like this. You are eating yourself to death. So I had a real big fright, and something changed that day. Instead of trying to look a certain way, I wanted to feel healthy. It frightened me. It was that light bulb moment. And that day, I went home. I waited until 9 o'clock at night, until it was dark, and I put my trainers on and I went out walking, and that was the beginning of my weight loss journey. I never ever spoke to anyone about my food addiction. I never shared that I was trying to lose weight with anyone. I had a really lonely journey, and every time I reached out for help, I even said to the GP on one occasion, I think I'm a food addict, and was told in no uncertain terms, you absolutely cannot be. A lot of the reasons why I turned to food is fear, panic, anxiety. It's all mental health related. And just as an alcoholic would reach for a bottle of wine, I always would reach for food. And about 5 years ago, I started a support group, so I'm now working helping others, and the amount of food addicts out there is unbelievable. You've only got to look at the weight loss injection industry at the moment. You know, there's a lot of people out there that are really, really desperate. It's a taboo subject that's not talked about. So I've done a lot in the press, I've done lots of talks like these to normalise it, because it's hidden and you are made to feel like it's your fault. So 4 years ago, I lost my sister to cancer. I had a really lonely time in my life. I was in a relationship that fell apart, and I ended up moving to Old Town. And I felt very alone in the world. We were just coming out of COVID, and I decided I would come to church. And when I walked through that door, I felt like I'd come home. All of my anxiety, all my fears, all my not feeling good enough just disappeared, and I was welcomed with no judgment. And in a society where there is so much judgment, I think that for me restored my faith in people, and I immediately fell in love with Christ Church, the community, the people, and I've met some amazing friends. I had some very honest conversations with Simon Stevenette, who is a dear, dear friend, and he helped me see what was missing from my life, and that was my faith. So now when I struggle with my mental health, when I feel like reaching for the food, as an addict, it's a daily thing that I live with, I find that by turning to my faith, I calm my central nervous system down. It gives me that peace inside, and the need to turn to food just dissipates. And then I moved into my apartment in Old Town. I thought I was going to be a bachelorette for life. I was 50 and was prepared to spend the rest of my life on my own. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, through my love of running, our love of running, I met the love of my life. And when I first met Paul, he didn't live in Swindon, he lived up north. And if you'd have told him that he would come to church with me, he would have laughed at you. But I can honestly say that our faith is such a support to our relationship. We were baptised and confirmed and married since we've been a part of the Christ Church, and I will always be grateful to Christ Church for what they've brought me in my life. I think that inner peace is something that you just cannot buy. And knowing that, you know, I was on my own, I felt very alone in the world. And when I joined Christ Church, I felt like I had God beside me and that I could face everything on my own. I had terrible financial trouble, I had family disown me, the list was endless. But I suddenly felt that everything was going to be okay, and that is what my faith brings to me. So a little bit about my story, and I hope you enjoy it. Any questions, please feel free to ask me afterwards. But I'll hand over to my very lovely husband now.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to show you my life story, really, how it started and where I've been and how I've come to sit here tonight. So, when I was a child, I didn't really have a good childhood. I used to get sort of beaten as a child, and the only sort of thing which helped me was going to see my nana, and she was in the choir in a church. So I used to go to church on a Sunday, and I used to listen to her, and she was like an angel, and that was my only sort of where I felt safe. So then when I went back home, but I couldn't tell anyone. In them days, children getting hit and that was like normal. So you just thought it was normal. And I went through all my sort of young life, and then I had to start to stick up for myself as I got older. And as you can see, I'm quite big now. So I started to be able to protect myself. And that was the start of my journey. But I just wanted to say, going to church and listening to my nana sing was the only thing what kept me probably happy, which was really quite scary for a young child. So from a very early age, I wanted to leave, because I'm from the northeast, Billingham, which is, if anyone's been there, It is no work, so it's quite a hard place to live. So I wanted to join the army. So I went through myself. I went up to Middlesbrough, did all the paperwork myself, did all the tests myself, and got accepted in the army. So that was when I was 14 years of age. At 15, I got on a train to London, well, to Aldershot, to join the army. I was excited, I was nervous, I was worried I was going to get lost in the underground, but I had no one with me. So I went to the train station on my own, got on the train, and started my journey. So when I got to Aldershot, this big sergeant started shouting at me, and I thought, oh, this is really nice, because he's not hitting me. So I just thought, oh, I feel safe. So I've got my notes here as well, so I do apologise. And I was wondering what the future had to offer. Well, I was only young, I was 15 years of age, going into a place with other young people to join the army. I was very quickly, I trained really hard to join the army. I did a lot of running because I wanted to succeed. In my basic training, I got promoted very quickly, and I was in charge of young soldiers, and at 16 years of age, I was in charge of young soldiers. So it was like leading people from a very young age, which was quite scary and very daunting for someone so young. But I took it in my stride, and I moved on from there. So when I joined the army, I wanted to be a chef. So I joined the army as a chef because I wanted to trade, I wanted to learn to cook. But when I went to the army, I didn't realise there was something I was good at, so I was a good shot. Obviously, I've never fired a gun before I joined the army. And from that, I went through courses and got my sniper course and did other courses in the military to help me. So I did short time as a chef, got my trade, and then obviously in 1991, Operation Granby in Iraq. So I went to war. I was still a baby, still a very young man, and it was probably the most scariest time of my life. Things were happening, and I just want to tell you a little bit of that. Was one of my best friends got shot, and this really, really tested my faith, because when I was holding my hand over his stomach and the blood was seeping through my fingers and I looked into his eyes, I was just really, really, he was really scared and I was really scared for him. I was really scared because I just couldn't do anything to help him. He was a really, really good friend. But as soldiers, it's happened, he got cadevaced off, and we carry on. But you don't think of what that does to your mental health. We were still young, didn't really realise. And the only thing which we do, and I still today, I cry, and when on Saturday Night Remembrance, when they put up the drums in the Albert Hall, that is a makeshift altar. So if anything happens in theatre and we need to sort of honour our dead, the padre will have the drums put up and the Bible goes on there and there'll be a service. So that can be anywhere in the world, we can do that and we can honour our fallen. And just a bit of history about that. So this is called Piling of the Drums. It started in the 1700s, and as military, we honour traditions. So it started in the 1700s, and we still do it today. And so the emotion of the faith is, well, can't really put it into words. But that was just my first tour. So my next tour, I went to Northern Ireland, spent a 6-month tour in Northern Ireland. I spent my time at Warren Point, and it was during the Troubles. There was a lot of troubles there. But what really tested me again with my faith was the Protestants and Catholics, the hatred. And I've never seen anything like that in my life, and how they hated us as British soldiers, which was really, really scary. I was still a young man, and seeing that sort of like hatred really tested my faith. And when I was there, luckily I went through my tour unscathed, and you move on to the next one. At the age of 28, I was serving in Afghanistan, and I was in a firefight, and I got injured. Today, I think I was lucky, because I had a ricochet which hit a wall, which I feel really fraud, because it smashed my hand, and I got reflex synthetic dystrophy in my whole right-hand side of my body from the shock when it happened. I was cadevaced out of theatre. I got sent back to the UK and went to Headley Court for rehabilitation. So when I was at Headley Court, I had a slight hand injury, like a broken nail, and there's people there with missing limbs and things, and it was, I felt like a fraud, and I felt like I was losing my military career. And at the end of that, they couldn't make me sort of get me back into theatre, get me back becoming a soldier, so I was medically discharged. When this happened, I was devastated, absolutely devastated, because I joined the army. The only thing I wanted to do, I've done nothing else in my life, and from 15 years of age, and it was like a brotherhood. The people I met and served with, they were not just friends, they were like, we couldn't, family. So when I left the military, obviously I had to adapt and overcome into civilian life, which I did. And I thought I was okay. And as time went on, I met Sarah Jane. Because my love of running, so I used to try and keep myself fit, my love of running. Me and Sarah Jane, we went to Sheffield to do a half marathon in Sheffield. I didn't tell her that 6 miles of that is uphill, which was probably not a good move on my part, but she must have thought something of me, because she... And I used to say to Sarah Jane that I'm very calm, and she said, Paul, you're not calm. When you sit in a room, you sit with your back to a wall, you survey the area, you're on edge all the time. And I was, I didn't think I was, because I just thought that was normal. So Sarah Jane really helped me to, because I just thought, do I have a mental health problem? I didn't think I did. And it was, as a soldier, I was probably in denial and probably scared to admit that there was something wrong. So I didn't want to just go to sort of the doctors and ask questions. So I reached out to Help for Heroes and said about the problems, and I got therapy from Help for Heroes, and they told me things like, because I used to go out running and do lots of exercise. I could be injured and I would still go out running. If someone said there was something to do 10 Ks in a month, I would do 20. I would always do more. And what was explained to me, I was punishing myself because I had PTSD from my military career and everything what happened, which I was amazed. I think, oh my God, how has this happened? So my fighting has carried on, but what I've learned to do now is, and realised, I do need to love myself, because I don't think I did. And our love has really, really helped me. And this is where the church came in. So Sarah said to me, should we go to church? Oh, I've been to church as a child. I've never really been to church, so I've been sort of with the drums and things, my career. Never really been to church. I think my faith has been tested quite a lot with the things I've seen and some of the places I've been. I said, okay, I'm open, because hopefully that might help. And I came to this church, and I think the first day I came here, it was like a weight was lifted from me. And I don't know why, and I felt, wow, I think a lot of stuff just left my body, and I just felt I've come home. And maybe that was similar to when I was a childhood. I felt safe here, I feel safe with Sarah Jane. And that's where, and one thing I've not said this whole story, I don't think I had any friends. I had people in the military who I was very close to, but I didn't really, because I moved about a lot, I didn't really have any friends. So since I came to this church, I'll call Simon my friend. Steve, I'll go riding with. He was my best man. So I've made some absolutely amazing and lots of friends within this church. And I think that friendship, that kindness which I feel from this church has really, really helped me. So I have to thank Sarah Jane for that day in Sheffield and where we've come. And when we got married, obviously the best day of my life, which was brilliant. So I think just to end on is, I think now I'm at peace with myself and what I've been through and what I've seen. I feel safe, like when I was a child, and the amazing friends and our class as family I've met within this church. And which supports our relationship, which is really amazing. And I'd just like to thank you all, because obviously you're all part of that, and to make this church. And we really enjoy trying to do things for the church and sort of trying to help, because
give back to what they've given to us, really.
Yeah. So that is, and me and Sarah Jane, we've started our lives late, so we're both in our 50s, but we live every day where we do things like something happens like Taylor Swift concerts, so we're like, let's go, let's do it. Yeah, and we try to live every day as it's special, and coming to church just makes that special as well.
I think coming to church as well and having our faith has made us extremely grateful for the small things in life. And I think you probably see the good in things, and I think we're both a lot kinder people as well with our faith. And we live in a very judgmental society, and we always try not to judge others, because you don't know what they're going through.
Yeah, and just on that last note, so I brought my medals with me tonight. So obviously the places I went, so they're my medals. When I left the army, I threw my medals in the bin. So I've had to get replicas of my medals. I threw them away because I felt I was not wanted. I was thrown away. So, but now I'm really proud of what I've done. Thank you for listening. And any questions?
Thank you both.
When you became Christians, did you, like when I became Christian, one of the first things I did was look back through my life and I tried to trace the hand of God throughout my life. To be honest, I couldn't, go very far back. And all I was left with was the overwhelming feeling that he had tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Come along." But I don't know, did you sort of discern his involvement? Were you more aware of his involvement in your life?
No, well, I don't think I was aware. Sorry.
You were aware because we talked about your injury.
Yeah.
And you said someone was looking over me that day.
Yeah. Well, that day when I potentially I could have been shot in the head, I got shot in the hand, which.
You think there was someone there?
Yeah. My nana, when I went to church, that really made me feel at home. So I think that was
Almost like your introduction to
Yeah.
faith. That
And-
then you overlooked for many years, and then when the time is right, it comes back. And again, I went to Sunday school, I went to church parade, the brownies, carried the flag, and then my faith disappeared from my life. But it came back. You know, I moved to Old Town. This was my local church. I came on my own, and it came at the right time. So I do believe he's been by my side, because the coincidences in life, and I think everything I've been through now is to help others. Particularly, I think you let the light work through you. So supporting other people with food addiction and watching them transform, I feel like that I'm doing God's work and he's doing that through me to help others.
Good feeling that you want to find out what God's purpose for you.
Yeah.
I think he was with me because I've been to probably the most dangerous places in the world, and I survived and come out of it relatively unscathed, where I've seen friends and who have been really severely injured, killed, and you look back and you think, well, why? Because one story, when I was in Northern Ireland, I was meant to go to Romeo 16, which is one of the towers there. And I just said to my mate, I said, "Oh, can you go to Romeo 16? And he got mortared. Luckily, he survived, but he got mortared. But if I'd have went, I might have been in a different place and it could have been a different outcome. So I think
He's been there protecting you.
it has been, if you look back on certain things, and I've been pinned down under fire, and I've prayed. It's you, and then you just have to, you just hope that you'll just get through it. So so it has, subconsciously it's been with me. Yeah.
Just one small technical point as well, I'm concerned. When in 1990, when you went to the Gulf,
91.
you said you were still a young lad.
Yeah.
How old were you?
87, so it's 4, I was 20.
Ah, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's very young.
Yeah.
And to leave home at 15, I think what I couldn't get over was Paul thought he had this really supportive, wonderful childhood, and at age 15, he left home with a suitcase, got on a bus, went to a train station. Nobody even came with him to see him off on the train. And you can't imagine, as a parent myself, I can't imagine, I don't think my son could get a bus to town at 15, let alone get himself to cross the other side of London. When you think he lives right up north, it was heartbreaking to me. Yeah.
So when I was getting counselling, my counselling eyesight, my dad used to beat me.
And he's the same size as Paul as well, so you can imagine as a child.
And I said to her, I've forgiven him because he's made me a better man. She couldn't believe how sympathetic to that, because I just thought everything he did to me, I've turned it on and done the exact opposite. So, because of how it made me feel, I don't want that to make anyone else feel. So, and she just couldn't believe me. She said, I've dealt with a lot of soldiers, and she's never heard that before, how forgiving you've been.
Well, I think otherwise it eats you up, doesn't it? And that's part of our faith, isn't it? Is forgiveness.
Yeah. And so I think that's very special to forgive. Yeah.
Have you been able to make peace with your father?
Yeah, I'm
Paul
I-
looks after him, although he's miles away. He's the one that his dad turns to. It's ironic, isn't it, when you treat someone like that?
I ring him nearly every week. I ring him just we have the same conversation every week, but it's
And in times of crisis, it will be Paul that his dad reaches to. But then we've kind of looked at it as like, actually, we don't know what his childhood was like. We don't know what his experience, and often, you know, abusive relationships like that is just cycles going round. They're just replicating what they've been through. So, again, we try and look at it.
Has he sort of apologised for it?
he doesn't think he's done anything wrong.
No.
So between me and my sister, so my dad left my mother in the end, and then my sister got took into care. But that all happened when I joined the army. So I fought out God. So I felt guilty for my sister for my whole military career, but I apologised to my sister, but she hardly speaks to my dad because he doesn't think he's done anything wrong. He thinks it's everyone else's fault. And I think he's of that age group who probably...
Don't talk about anything, brush everything under the carpet.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's... So like for me, it's just... It happened. It is what it was. End of the day, it made me stronger. It made me so...
Forgiving, but still protecting yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Boundaries, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got to have boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think reminding them, yes, you've done something wrong.
Mm.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
you-
forgive you, but
Yeah. Yeah. That's really important, I think.
there are people I've forgiven, I'll never trust them again.
I know, yeah, because you learn from it, don't you?
I'll never trust them again.
And that's about protecting yourself, I think, isn't it?
That's what it's about. It is about protection. Yeah. But no, but I just feel that it made me, from what he did, it made me a better soldier in my time when I was in that, because it made me sort of everything I had to go through. It's like in the days when soldiers we were beaten up a lot as young as 16-year-olds and getting beaten up by a 30-year-old. When you're a young, you're still a child, but it trained us. But I was able to like stay with it because my sort of motivation is I did not want to go home. So I would have went through anything to stop me going home. So anything I was asked, I would do because I just wanted that because it felt safer being there than being at home, which is quite a...
Sad.
When you say it out loud, it's not a nice thing to say that your home wasn't safe. I think my only saving grace was my nana's. I used to go there, as soon as I finished school on a Friday, I went to my nana's and stayed there all weekend and went home late on a Sunday night. So weekends was my like saving grace, and that's where I got into the sort of the church when I was young, and listening to my nana. And when my nana died, so we had the service at the church. So I had to stand up and I did a poem because I can't sing. So it was but that's the thing, and that really probably but at the time that probably didn't realise how much that affected me because I'd lost another safety net, and I think you don't realise, and I think that's how Sarah Jane's helped me to understand mental health and how things affect you and your actions and how you are, because I thought I was okay, and I obviously I was diagnosed with PTSD, so I wasn't okay, which is quite a... But I would have went on, I would have not known, but the military, when I left the army, I went on a resettlement course, and that was it. See you, that's it, you're done. There was no sort of help or support when I left the military. From having everything done for me, I didn't even know how to get a doctor or get a dentist or pay a bill, because it all happened for me when I was in the military. So it was really a total change, and I got no help or support. But at the time, But one thing the Anne did give me was resilience. You can adapt, you can overcome, and you can keep going. And I think that's really helped me. So anything which put in front of me, I can deal with. And having the mental health I've had, it has been tough, hasn't it?
I think the church has helped with
Oh
that.
God, yes. The church has been a big
Very
factor.
calming.
Yeah, and I do when I come in here. I just feel so relaxed. And when you're on tenterhooks all the time, to be
Living on
relaxed
red alert.
is a whole different feeling, and so it's a different experience.
It'd be interesting. Do any of you feel like that when you come? You feel that peace and that all the things you were worried about kind of disappears or alleviates slightly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I first started coming here, it was very similar. I mean, I went from homeless in a van to living in a shared house with 5 other people. There wasn't a whole lot of peace there, especially to process what was going on
Yeah.
at the time. So I used to come here, especially in the afternoons. It was so empty and quiet,
Yeah.
and I could just sit and just actually enjoy quiet, you know, and reflect on
Yeah.
where I am in the world. But the question for both of you, really, you know, listening to both of your amazing stories, you've obviously both experienced quite a bit of darkness, and now you've come to faith, you've confirmed your faith, you know, your marriage is God in the middle of your marriage, you know, and obviously there's no promise of all happy, sunshiny days. So when it's dark times now, where do you both experience kind of the light of Jesus in that darkness?
I think just by talking to him, for me, I constantly talking to him in my head, or I will ask that I feel your support, or walk with me, and yeah, those prayers are always answered in some form or another, just to bring me peace.
Yeah, I think you look for signs as well, don't you?
Yeah, I do look for signs along the way. And like I say, they're always there. You just didn't realise at the time. And it's like when something really dark and bad does happen now, Simon, it's interesting you say that, because I look back at some things, especially in my previous failed relationship. I felt like such a failure in life. And I was very low, suicidal at times. And look at me now. So it's not giving up. You know, those brighter days will come. It's just getting through that is hard, and that's where your faith, I think, can support you, because you just say, get me through another day, just get me through another day, and you keep doing that, and then the brighter days do come. So yeah, my faith has really got me through so much in my life.
I think what I do is I always think, oh, tomorrow will be better. At the end of the day, God is looking down on me, and I think sometimes you have to be tested and to test your faith. So I think, well, I'll get through today, tomorrow, and I will make sure tomorrow is better, and what I do, and I think it keeps you on the right path as well. So I think that's something which I try and believe, and it does help. It does help because sometimes when you're low, sometimes, and a lot of people have gone through this, you don't think there's no way out, but there is.
And that's what I think your faith gives you. It gives you that light to keep going towards the light.
Yeah, and it's having that positive sort of outlook, like, it's not good today, but it will be better tomorrow. And it's being positive and just thinking, he will make it better for me. And I think that is, yeah. So I think that's how it helps me. And 5 years ago, I don't think I would have ever said that. How I've come in sort of my faith, and So at times my faith was very challenged during more during my military, because you see a lot of things and you see a lot of different things which people shouldn't see and shouldn't be exposed to. So it does actually, like, you think, why is this happening? Why are these two factions fighting? Why is this happening? Why am I here? So it does bring up a lot of questions, but I think it is what it is, and you just think tomorrow will be a better day. Yeah.
Thank you for your inspirational talks.
Oh.
It's really been heartwarming.
Oh, thank you.
I spent a number of years working in an addictions rehab centre, which had quite a number of people of ex-services come through
Yeah.
who had coped with the stresses that you talked about by turning to alcohol and drugs.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone like that who came in here? Addiction doesn't seem to be an issue for you.
So,
What would you say to someone who's seen the trauma of
yeah.
family life?
So alcohol had a factor in my life. I never drank excessively, but when I did drink, I didn't know when to stop. So I made the decision to stop drinking full stop. So I stopped drinking 4 years ago. 4 years ago, I just stopped drinking. I've not touched another.
And interestingly, with my food addiction, I stopped drinking alcohol 5 years ago because it would make me, because it uses up all your serotonin, you're so down afterwards, and then I would turn to food. So I linked that actually drinking alcohol was not good for my food addiction. And neither of us knew that we didn't drink alcohol before we met. And then what's the odds on that? That is...
Yeah. So to answer your question would be that you need to talk, and what you think was brave in the military, talking and
asking for help. You're braver. And I think soldiers will, and they need, because that's why I went to Health for Heroes, because I knew the person who I'd be speaking to would understand, because we're a weird bunch of military people. we have so they'd understand how we think and how we are. But it's so 5 years ago I would have not said anything that I've got any issues. I'm a big hard man. I'm like very arrogant. It would come across as arrogance. You'd come across that you don't care. But I think It's a mask.
you are masking your issues, and drugs is another mask of your issues. And it's talking about it. I've seen grown men, something's dropped in a Tesco's and they've hit the floor and they're just like shaken because they think they're being martyred, and it just, I suppose I was quite lucky. Yes, and that I think my PTSD was more that
Addiction to exercise.
Yeah, it was addiction to exercise. I actually went to a physiotherapist. I was doing 30 10Ks running in a month. On day 15, I could hardly run. So I went to a physiotherapist. How can I run? I need to finish what I'm doing. What can you do to me so I can finish? It wasn't, stopping was not in my mindset to stop, which now I think, oh my God, why did I do that? It's like when I was 50 years of age, I decided to run 50 half marathons at 50.
You got stress fractures and everything, didn't you?
I had stress fractures. When I finished that, I was a mess. But because I said I was going to do it, I did it for charity. So everything I do, normally I do it for charity, and I try and raise money for, which is really good. But my body was really broken, and I just thought I was normal. I thought, well, I'm just getting old. I can't run as fast as I used to. It's just getting harder. But I will keep going. But when my therapist said, no, you're doing that because you're punishing your body, you're punishing yourself, because that is your That is your drug. That pain is your drug.
And Sarah Jane, were you punishing your body?
Yeah, I think for me, my addiction was slightly different because I never felt good enough or worthy enough, and my parents were not affectionate people, so I associated food with love. So I would eat to soothe myself. And instead, and any addiction is just a temporary fix, it's not permanent. So it was only when I really started doing the inner work, looking at like, where is this come from, and realising, you know, that I didn't get any love and affection. I didn't ever think I was good enough or clever enough or pretty enough or thin enough or whatever it was, and I would just use food to numb that feeling. But it only ever was temporary, and the way in which I would eat was very frenzied. And about 5 years ago, I read a book. It's called Ultra Processed People. It's by a scientist called Dr. Chris Van Tunicum, and they look at the chemical effects of processed foods on our brains, and it is the same as if you're drinking alcohol. It lights the brain up, it lights up that serotonin, that feel good, but it's only while you're eating it, and then you dip and you crave, so you want more. So it's a really taboo addiction subject that's not talked about, because the people that are suffering through the NHS are made to feel like it's your fault, you just need to eat less.
An organisation called Overeaters Anonymous.
Yeah.
Where people... The problem with that, of course, is that Alcoholics Anonymous say abstinence. You can't be abstinent of
I know.
food, which is the dynamic.
I know, but the support work I do with my clients is I try to get them to eat real food. Real food. You know, this. Look at the ingredients on the packet. If you can't pronounce it, you certainly shouldn't be eating it. You know, if anything's got more than 5 ingredients in, that ain't no good for your body. And I talk to them about the effect on their mental health, their physical health. I talk a lot about self-esteem and doing just work on self-love. You know, instead of doing that, why don't you go out in nature? Because again, that calms the central nervous system. And if you can just ride that craving out, it will subside. But it's just trusting the process and weaning yourself off of it, really. But I have to say, even now, if I was to eat processed food, it would trigger a binge. And every morning I wake up and I set my intention and I choose to be healthy every day, just as an addict did. I watched a fantastic documentary on BBC iPlayer, and it was the first time that Alcoholics Anonymous had let film cameras in, and they just changed it all with AI, changed people's faces, people's voices. But when I sat and watched that documentary, I had tears streaming down my face because I realised I'd kind of done that programme with myself and hadn't even realised it. And interestingly enough, the last step was spirituality, which again filled my cup, which I hadn't even realised that coming to church and being a Christian, I hadn't realised that that was the missing piece in my jigsaw puzzle, and it was the last piece of it. It's a very interesting, fascinating subject that I'm hugely passionate about.
Yeah. Any other questions?
It's just what are you having to do? Sorry, somebody else goes.
No? Karen?
No, what you have to do then, with your faith grows, you feel what the two of you are doing with your experience is great. Hearing you speak now is really, you've given me proof of literally doing the football.
Thank you.
Excuse the pun.
Thank you.
Especially when you just said anything that's got more than about 5 ingredients in it. That's a lot of the stuff I eat.
Well,
Do you feel that you want to take it further?
Yeah, I definitely do. I definitely want to write a book. I write for an online health and wellbeing magazine already called Kizzy. And I run a support group where I have 16 members. We meet every Thursday night online.
in the paper every week.
I've done a lot in the national press just to raise awareness of it, because it's not discussed. And what happens if you're a food addict? Because you go and reach out for help, they'll say to you, you know, it's your fault, you just need to eat less and eat more. If only it was that simple. If only it was that simple. So I tried to to tell people it's not your fault. Stop blaming yourself. Let's look at what you're eating and why you're eating. And it's no good just tackling one bit of it, because actually a diet is just a logical solution and it's to an emotional problem. Most people are emotional. I was a hugely emotional eater. If someone had upset me or hurt my feelings or I'd had a bad day at school, I would come home and raid the cupboards. So a logical solution is not going to fix an emotional problem. It takes all of it. And for me, I was lots of different parts of the jigsaw puzzle in my journey of living in recovery, and my faith is one of those many parts. But I want that to turn that into my full-time job.
Yeah, because I used to always say, Sarah used to say to me, you can't out-train a bad diet. And I used to say, yeah, you can. I've been doing it for years. And I'm like that now. I don't eat. I've stopped drinking milk. So I drink coffee that's gone out of fashion, so now I have black coffee. I don't eat hardly any bread. And I look at packets, so I look at what the ingredients is, and I say, if I'm not eating that, because when you actually Google some of the things which are in your food, you'll be shocked. Where there's some, like, if you eat, like some of the butters, it's one process away from being plastic. So you're eating plastic.
There's a really good programme on iPlayer called Irresistible, Why Can't We Stop Eating? And that was amazing because they showed the food manufacturing products with electrodes on people's head, feeding them Pringles and things like that. And when it lit up, they called it the sweet spot, so it makes it really highly addictive. And all these people were very well educated and very rich and very slim. And I thought, would you eat that? I bet they wouldn't. Would you feed your kids that? I bet they wouldn't.
They know the outcome.
Yeah. And then those food manufacturing companies also own the drug companies. So it is a massive, multi-billion pound, very powerful industry. It's about 6 companies, I think, altogether. But the people that own Weight Watchers own PepsiCo, own Heinz, frozen foods. So they're selling you the whole package, the frozen ready meals, the theory, the logical theory that's only going to work while you're doing that, but it doesn't address any of the underlying issues, and that's the work that I do with my clients.
I'm quite into gut health, and that's vital.
Yes, massively. Yeah, because the gut and the brain, and also, if you eat a lot of processed food, your gut doesn't even recognise it as food. Because I couldn't get over the fact that I used to be able to eat so much food. I thought, I am never ever full. And it's because of the type of food I was eating. I was eating processed food that is not real food. So your gut and your brain, it's never going to tell you you're full up because it's not real food. Whereas now, if I eat a plate of real food, I could get 3/4 of the way through it and think, right, I'm full now, I'm going to leave the rest. Because my gut is talking to my brain and having a conversation. So your gut health is very, very, very important. Yeah.
Yeah, one of our customers, he's a builder. He's had a McDonald's cheeseburger on the dash of his van that his apprentice bought.
10 years.
He doesn't touch processed
No.
food. That's why he comes to us. It's been there for 2.5 years in a van.
Still looks fresh. Still looks fresh.
There's not a speck of mold on it. It's fine. You pick it up and it's hard as that cup. But there's no mold.
No.
It's perfectly pristine. It looks like the day you bought it. And his apprentice is now one of our very good customers.
The thing is as well, if you eat well, you feel well.
Yeah.
You know, and if you eat processed foods, you just feel sluggish, brain fog, inflammation. You know, the list is endless.
Yeah. I think that's how we do it. It's like eating well, having your faith, and that is a key part of it.
And being part of the community.
And having, like, because Sarah was amazed. Like, I said, oh yeah, I've got friends, but I haven't seen them for 10 years or 20 years, and she said, what we do now and the amount of people I see now, she goes, this is normal.
Yeah.
You weren't normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like getting that jigsaw and that full package, really.
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
And to me, the church has been a really big part of that. and
Massive
it's
part.
been
Definitely a massive part of us.
Yeah.
What if, especially if I get another question for you. So,
Yeah, no, yeah.
I didn't see. You know, food addiction, alcohol, drugs, addiction is addiction. And you know, I've spent many years in 12 steps. What would be your strap line or your go-to phrase for someone, whether it's food addiction or any addiction? What would be the one thing you would say to them if they were in front of you right now?
I would say doing the work, doing the real work, that inner work, is not easy, but it is so worth it because you set yourself free from a prison sentence of addiction, regardless of what it is. It rules your life, it rules every thought. It's the first thing you think about when you wake up, the last thing you think about when you go to bed. But when you do that inner work and you feel good from the inside out, you don't need that substance anymore because you're taking away the need for it. So yeah, it's not easy, but my God, the reward is so worth it. You get your life back.
Paul, you're not the right.
No, I've got an answer.
So again, and I'm sure you know a lot of people with PTSD throughout, you know, with being for Help for Heroes and kind of if there was someone in front of you who you could see they were suffering from PTSD, but maybe they couldn't, what would you say to them?
I would say you need to love yourself, because I know that sounds really strange, but I didn't love myself at all. At the end of the day, I think now I love myself more, so then I'm looking at the food, what I eat, so I'm eating better food. I don't train as hard because I don't want to get injured. So it's having, and I think the thing what changed me from my sort of counselling was, and Sarah Jane used to preach to me about this, you need to love yourself. And it's like, when I used to go to work, I'm still like it with work.
People pleasing.
I used to please people at my own detriment, which that means I don't love myself. I think everyone else is better than me, so I think changing that mindset would be key. Because if you start loving yourself, you'll start thinking, well, I don't want to have that alcohol. I don't want to do that because
I deserve more.
that hurts me, and I want to be better.
Simon Stevenett says that Christians are challenged with three things: to love others, to love their community, and to love themselves.
Yeah.
And he said they can love the world, they can love others, but they can't love themselves. And that's an issue for many Christians.
Yeah.
That we feel we have to earn our lovability by doing things that we're not lovable in and who we are. And that's a challenge, I think, for
Many
those
people.
of us here, really,
Yeah.
to say we have to love ourselves. It's easy enough to love other people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But love ourselves when we're aware of our own faults.
Yeah.
And that's true. It's easier to sort of love other people or do things for other people at your own detriment. And if someone said to you, well, you've just done that, and you'd go, that's a bit silly, isn't it? But when you do it, you don't realise you're doing it. It's trying to get out of that mindset, isn't it? And
Well, it's just relearning a new habit,
Yeah.
isn't it?
and it is. There's a lot of things which we do. There's a habit we need to do. It takes 6 weeks to learn a habit properly.
I think as well, though, what we were saying about boundaries earlier, when you don't love yourself, because you want people to love you, you end up burning yourself out, and then you're overwhelmed, and so then you go back to the addiction. So the key really is about self-worth, and then you don't go over and above, so you don't burn yourself out, so you're not overwhelmed, so you don't want addiction. So it's a massive cycle with lots of pieces in it.
Because I think if you love yourself first, you will naturally
That's the
love other
foundation to it,
people
isn't it? Yeah.
and around you, because that will just come naturally,
Yeah.
because you put yourself first, but in your values then, because I'm a true believer of that I wouldn't do anything to someone else what I wouldn't do to myself. I say that, but in reality, I would do a lot more for other people than not to myself. So
But I think that's being
you lie
pushed
to yourself.
yourself.
You lie to yourself.
Yeah.
It's, well,
Ali, did you have a question, Donna?
I've been trying to remember this question.
Oh,
If teenage Sarah and teenage Paul walked through the door, what three things would you say as an encouragement or a message of love or compassion towards them?
that is good. The first thing I would say to myself was, you are enough. You are safe. And you're not alone. Because I think that fear, that not feeling safe and that not feeling enough were where all the wheels fell off with addiction. So yeah, I would say that to her and give her a hug.
I've dodged that bullet in Afghanistan. No,
What would you say to little Paul?
I'd probably give him a hug and just say everything will be okay. It's because, as I said earlier, I don't think I was loved as a child.
Well, you didn't have affection, did
Yeah,
you?
yeah. So through my life, I found that I've been told in the past that I haven't got an emotional bone in my body, which now it has changed. I'm very emotional now. I cry at a drop of a hat. But I think I think if I would have been more emotional when I was younger, I think I would have probably excelled more in my younger life. Yeah. Thank you.
Good question.
Yeah.
I do one of those
Yeah.
sporting things. You're both runners. What are your marathon or half marathon times?
So my half marathon, my PB was 2 hours 30.
Yeah.
But I didn't start running until I was 40. That was a present to myself. Age 40, I bought a running course, couch to 5K.
So my marathon is 4 hours, 4 minutes. I've only done one marathon. My fastest half marathon is 1:37, I think. Yeah, my fastest mile and a half when I was, because I didn't do half marathons and marathons when I was young. I used to be able to run a mile and a half in 7 minutes. So a 5-minute mile I used to be able to run when I was in the army. I still got that brain.
He
but
still thinks he can.
Yeah. So my fastest park run was, is it 21 minutes? I think 21 minutes fastest park
So
run.
that's 7-minute miles, which is not
Yeah.
bad.
So, and that's park runs when I was 50. So that's so.
I think a weekend would be covered 9 times.
Yeah. But the thing is, we enjoy running, and we've both got knee injuries. So I've got a torn ligament in my left knee. Sarah's got no cartilage between the knee.
I'm actually on the waiting list to have a knee replacement. But so what we do now, we've just adapted it. We do 1 minute walk, 1 minute run, 1 minute walk, 1 minute run. So just
Just to keep
Yeah.
going. Yeah. Which is nice. We just love. I just think being out
in nature.
in the nature, in the fresh air, that is another form of it's
It's so good for your mental health.
I should think doing it together is the
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
massively.
And going out on the bike Like me and Steve, we've done so many miles on our bikes, and we've got some amazing pictures of like sort of
Nature.
birds of prey and things like that when we've been out, and it's just amazing being out in the middle of nowhere. And I think it's when you're in a town like here, and it's very quiet in the church at the moment, but when you're out and about, that background noise you always hear by the cars and everything, when you're out in nature, it's just the birds.
You go up on the Ridgeway a lot, don't you? And it's so
It's
peaceful.
a different, I think it's a different feeling as well. I think that puts you at, and we've done a few things like where we've gone up on the Ridgeway and took our shoes and socks off and grounded.
Yeah.
I was like, what am I doing? Yeah.
Oh, we're so lucky to have that on our doorstep.
Yeah.
So lucky.
And one which was you were burning some things when it was something to burn, something old, which was to get rid of sort of, and we did it on the Ridgeway. I thought she was going to burn the whole Ridgeway down.
I quite like all the holistic therapies as well. So that's like herbal remedies. I try to keep things as natural as possible. But again, it's just all another part of that puzzle. Yeah.
Anything from anyone else?
Thank you
No?
very much for
Was
having
that
us.
sort of food for thought for you? And,
Yeah, hope so.
Yeah, definitely. It's very inspiring, and it was nice to get to know you both as well. So,
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
everyone for
guys.
listening.
Yeah,
Really
thank you very
appreciate your
much.
time. It was really nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.